Morning folks, how you doing? Time for coffee and a catch up. Hope you've been keeping busy. Where are we? Week 9 of the lockdown. Man, it's dragging on a bit. I decorated the kitchen, I gave it a coat of paint, which it didn't really need, to be honest. It gave me an opportunity to give it a deep clean, but I guess it didn't really need that either. However, it kept me busy. So this morning I thought I would chat to you about the Scottish Hills. Give you a wee insight into my hill walking career in Scotland. So one of the questions I'm often asked is, how many hills have you climbed, Dave? Well, actually I can't give you an accurate figure on that. It's probably in the region of 2,000 hills. What I can do is I can give you accurate figures on some of the hill lists. So I started off just going to the hills and just climbing whatever hill took my fancy. But after a few years you would meet people in the hills when you're hiking or camping, or you'd come across people at work as well that asked the same question. How many Munros have you done? And for a long time I resisted the urge to become a hill bagger, to start ticking lists. But then I suppose it kind of got to me after a while when people would tell me, oh, you know, I'm almost finished my Munros, or I've done half of the Munros. And I thought maybe I should knuckle down and do these Munros. By that time I reckoned that I'd probably climbed maybe around 200 of them, at least 200 of them. However, I hadn't kept any records, so I decided just to start again. And so I embarked on a round of the Munros, and because I had quite a lot of knowledge of the country by that time, it didn't really take very long to spin round the Munros. And I didn't tackle them following any routes that are laid down by the guidebooks. I just went my own way, and because of that I was able to join together hills in a single outing that other people might do over 2, 3 or even 4 outings. So I got round the Munros quite fast, and when I did the round of the Munros there was 277, but shortly after that they increased the number to 284. I'm not sure what it's at now. I think it's 281 or 82 or something now. Anyway, when I calculate the number of Munros that I've done, I put the number down at 284, because after the 277 list the new ones came along, and I just had a look at them and decided, actually I'd climbed most of them. I think I'd climbed all but one of them before anyway, but I just went out and did them for the sake of getting a date against the ascent. And then when I finished the Munros, I kind of maybe got the bug for ticking lists, so I carried on. I did the Corbetts. I'd already done a few Corbetts, no real idea how many, but when I did my recorded round of the Corbetts I did the 219 list, and I think now there are more than 219, so the number of Munros has shrunk again and the number of Corbetts has increased. And there's a couple of reasons for that. So there's one, what was one hill above Glen Shiel, or above Loch Hourn, that has 2 tops of identical height, and so it was only ever regarded as one Corbett, but now I believe both tops are regarded as a Corbett in their own right. When I finished the Corbetts, I kind of kept on with the list ticking, and I did a round of the Grahams, and so according to this book here, at that time there was 224 Grahams. So if you add that together, that gives 727 hills, which is a long way short of the 2,000 or so that I'm claiming. Well, the reason for that is that I've done quite a lot of Marlins, which are sub 2,000 foot hills, but I also seek out Munro tops, Graham tops, Corbett tops, just random hills that take my fancy. And the way that I find these hills is I spend an inordinate amount of time studying these maps, looking at these maps, putting routes together, and trying to find remote spots often with a preference to identifying a bit of high ground so I can go away and do a bit of exploration and get off the beaten track, away from the hills that are popular, to try and get the lonely spots, seek them out and enjoy a bit of time there. So I kept an Excel spreadsheet for many years, and I filled the spreadsheet in up until I got to about, I think it was about 1640 hills that were on the spreadsheet, and then I kind of gave up with it altogether. And now, so for the last 4, maybe 5 years, I haven't added anything onto that spreadsheet, and that's why I hesitate to say how many hills I've actually climbed. What I don't include in my calculations are hills that I've gone over more than once. So there's some Munros, for example, that I've probably done, well, let me see, give you an example, Mealn and Ptarmigan. I reckon I've probably climbed it definitely into double figures and maybe as many as 20 times. So there's an example. And then there's some other favourite hills that I go and I camp on them pretty much every year or every other year. So I've got a number of hills where there's been multiple ascents. And like I say, with the Munros, I don't claim to have climbed all the Munros twice, because I think there are certainly some that I might not have been over. Interestingly, probably the skiing hills up at the Cairnwell, I've been over them once for my recorded round of the Munros. I don't have any great recollection of going over some of these hills, like Carneosa, for example. I don't think I've done that twice, although I have hiked about in that area in the winter time when I was a boy in my teens. So there is every chance that I might have done a second round of the Munros, but I don't claim that. I claim to have done a single round of the Munros, the Corbetts and the Grahams. With the border hills, the Donalds, well, I've done most of the Donalds and Donald tops. I think I've probably got about a dozen to go. There's a fair chance that I might never finish the Donalds, although never say never. I might wake up one morning and say it's time I completed that list and go and do them. The reason that I say that there's a chance that I might never finish them is because the ones that I haven't done are just not very interesting. So hills with paraphernalia, if I can use that word, on the tops, telephone masts, trees, fences in the way, not particularly good views. So in preference for spending a day on a hill like that, I would much rather go and find a nice remote scenic spot that's quiet and without the intrusion of man, if I can put it that way. So that's a little bit about the hill lists. So having chatted a little bit about the lists, I want to show you my maps, and I'm just using this. What sheet is this? This is sheet 33. I just want to use this as an example. Let me move my map case out the way. So I'll bring you over and I'll show you what I do to my maps. So I'm just hand holding this, so apologies for the camera shake. And really what I'm showing you is the different colours on the mountain tops. So I'm going down, and is this focusing for me? So these red marks, that's the Munros. So what you're actually looking at there, apart from the camera strap, you're looking at the South Glenshiel Ridge. And there's the edge of Loch Clooney coming in, and there's the North Glenshiel Ridge there. So it picks the hills out very easily, and then just up in the top right hand corner there's Sgurnakeistú. Then the orange, there's one there, and on the right of the screen there's a couple of there. That's the Corbetts. And actually these two corbets are the ones that were formerly just a single corbet. That's the two hills with the identical heights that I mentioned earlier. That's just a coincidence. I didn't actually plan that in the video. I'm not so well organised. And then let's move across here. So we're looking to the north of Loch Huron there, and then there's a couple of lovely remote Grahams there. So that's what the yellow are. So you can see there's a couple of corbets in the top of the screen, a couple of Grahams there. Let me take this strap out of the way. You'll see that there's an additional yellow there with a circle round it, so different from the different colour. So that's a yellow there with a red circle round it. That's a Graham. This circle highlighted in yellow with a dark ring around it, that's a mountain bothy. So there's another one there for you. So at a glance I can see where I've been, and then I just need to home in and I can look at the summits, and then I can recollect different routes that I've taken over the tops of these mountains. And so the map comes to life not only because I enjoy map reading, but also because it reawakens memories of days spent in these hills, camping, hiking, exploring. But there's another part to the map. If I can come over here, there's these circles here. So remember I said the red was the Munros, the orange is the Corbetts, and the yellow are the Grahams. Well, these are sub 2,000 foot hills. These are the Marlins, and there's a lot of them marked on my maps. There's some more up there, and then we come across here. So now we've opened up another sheet. We can see I'm on Harris. This is the Harris Hills. So the Corbett there in orange, as we mentioned, that's the Clisham, and then the three Grahams that lie to the west of it. But the Harris Hills are dominated by marlins. So there's all these lovely 2,000 foot hills, and not just in the south, way up in the north. And if we come all the way to the south, sorry about this camera strap, you see two of my favourite hills. So that's where I set up a summit camp last year. So look out for one of the videos in the Hebridean series from 2019. So these circles ringed with a green highlighter, they are all sub 2,000 foot hills, and they're all listed hills, listed as marlins. And now we've moved to South Uist, and there we are. See if I can focus in on that a little bit. So that's Benmore, that's the Graham on South Uist. But really what I want to show you is this hill there that's ringed in silver. And I'm not going to show you too many of them. But these are the hills that I seek out, that I'm looking for. So that's a roadside one, so that's a perfect hill for a bad day, where it's too wet or windy or wild to go deep into the countryside, but half an hour from the road and you're on a summit and you can do a circle round. So, and that hill is actually just a short walk from my brother's croft. And here's another example of one of these little hills. That's Cable Vore, which is the highest point on a little tidal island, and the island here to the west is Cable Beg, which has also got a high point. So and actually there's a little I haven't marked it here, I've actually climbed, that's a marlin there, I've climbed the marlin. But it's seeking out these remote little hills. That one's not particularly remote. That's another good one for a wet day, but actually surprisingly challenging to get across to that. Climbing up and over and then dropping down to the coast and then waiting on the tide going out so that you can get over and climb that little hill. And I've got hundreds of these, several hundred of these little hills that I've climbed and camped on. So that's a wee glimpse at my maps. And these days the hills that give me the most pleasure are undoubtedly the ones that are ringed in silver. So they're not listed hills. It gets very complicated because they probably are listed hills, because below the Marlins there's hills with 30 metres around of drop around the summit, and then there's ones with 100 feet. I think I'm not sure about these kind of subsidiary lists. They're called humps and tumps, and then there's tops as well. So I mentioned the Grahams, 227 did we say, or 24? And in terms of Grahams, there's not that many. There's just over a couple of hundred, but there's about 700 Graham tops. And to be honest, some of the tops are far more rewarding places to visit than the actual listed summit. And that's what I seek out. And I've been doing that for several years, and at the very beginning of my hill walking career, I just went to the hills for the sheer joy of it. I wasn't bothered with lists or marking progress through Scotland or any such thing. I was just happy to be in the hills, and absolutely that's what I've gone back to doing. So I head off into these hills and I just kind of wander about, study the maps. There's places that I want to go, and in the little series of summit shots that I'm going to stitch on at the end of this blether are some reasonably well-known summits, but there's a whole host of summits that even the avid hill walker and hill bagger will struggle to identify. I'm sure there's a lot of summits that are going to feature in this little clip at the end that will get people scratching their heads. The thing to do is to look beyond me standing next to yet another cairn and see if you can identify the background, because that will give you an idea of where I am. I don't keep these summits a secret, although one or two of my buddies from the climbing club have asked me to release a list, and some of my pals call me China Dave because of my associations with China, because of the work that I did there over the years, and they want to see a list of China Daves, a list of these kind of obscure, unusual hills in Scotland. But I don't think I shall ever produce a list because it's way too subjective. And some of these hills I've walked within 100 metres of the summit of a Munro and completely ignored going over the summit of the Munro because I've been intent on getting to the wee hill that I've identified maybe several months before on a dark winter night when I've been sitting at home poring over the maps. And so a lot of people wouldn't be prepared to do that. They wouldn't see the sense in it. For me, it's just fun, it's enjoyment and relaxation, and that is why I go to the hills. So I think today I've gone beyond blethering and got into rambling, so I think I'm going to wind the video up here. I'm hoping that filming these maps is going to be usable content and I can put it all together as a wee video for you. And then, like I say, I've pulled together, I don't know, 60, 70 images of basically me standing next to a cairn. So it's not going to be the most exciting footage that you've ever seen on YouTube. However, give it a view if you're interested, and enjoy the views over my shoulder to the distant hills. And now you understand a little bit more about what drives me when I go to the hills. So I hope you enjoy it, folks. Stay safe. I believe that today is Thursday, so I'm thinking about putting this video up tomorrow. So by the time you view this video, we should have a little bit of news in Scotland, at least on the status of the lockdown. And if we're free to roam, then the next video, or maybe the one after that, might finally be some new footage. So stay safe, folks, and I look forward to checking in with you again soon. Bye for now.